All right, so what we've got is Repair Shop Solutions. My name is Scott Osborne. I'm the owner of Repair Shop Solutions. I also own Osborne's Automotive in Redondo Beach, shop owner for 30 plus years, and developed this software to help out my shop, and it just kind of turned into a side business, and now it's taken off and doing really well. But I want to give you kind of some best practice use on this, show you some workflow, and show you how it can really change the way you're doing things in the shop. And bottom line is we want to increase your average RO and do a better job of the inspections for the customers. This is the home page here. This is what everyone would see as they're logged in. It's showing the last 10 inspections. We don't delete them. We don't archive them. They just kind of fall off the bottom. As you can see down here in the bottom, I've got about 5,400 inspections in my account. And as they're added on the top. So the newest stuff, today's stuff, is going to be up here on the top. The way that we go through this is either the service advisor starts an inspection and assigns it to a technician, or the technician can start their own inspection. Using auto apps, the technician in most cases would just hit the RSS Inspect button here. It's going to open up Repair Shop Solutions and fill in the form so there's no double entry. It brings in the VIN number, year, make, model, RO number, license, mileage. We select the manager. We select the mechanic that's going to work on it. We have choices of the different inspection sheets we can use. Mine defaults to the multi-point. If I was doing a diagnostic for this car where there was a no-start, air conditioning, cooling system, charging system, I have a sheet in there for it too. It's bringing over the customer's information from RO Writer. This customer doesn't have an email address. That's fine. We're going to work around it anyways. I hit OK, and you can see now that this 2000 Smart 4.2 is on the top of the list, ready for Keith to inspect it. The status on this is open, which means he hasn't done it yet. If I've made a mistake, I can always go back, hit the edit button, change the technician or whatever. One of the most important things that we can do with the inspection process is, first of all, give the technician the history of the previous inspections. Let them see what was recommended, what got sold, what didn't get sold, because we want to build consistency into our inspections. It's embarrassing to tell somebody that their transmission fluid is fine and they look at you and say, well, 3 months ago you told me I needed to have it changed and I put it off till this time, but now you're saying it's okay. So I want to reduce those. We ask the technician, first of all, to check the history button and to open up the previous inspection. When you hit the print button here, it brings it up in a PDF format, and the technician can easily see what was recommended, what got done, and what didn't get done. In this case here, we had a couple of maintenance items and something to monitor. We sold brake fluid. I put the word resolved in here by checking off that it got sold, so the technician knows we recommended brake fluid and we did it. We recommended trans fluid. We did not do it. It says in here to check with the customer, so we need to go a little bit further. Cabin air filter, did it last time. No reason for me to check it this time. Any photographs that were added during the inspection process are included in here, and this is all just for the technician's reference, so he knows what to look at when he starts looking at this tire or at this car. Cracking on the side wall of the rear tires, either they've had them replaced or we need to recommend them again and make sure they get replaced. That's all available by clicking on the history button. In the case of this car down here for Rob Klein, this is the first time the car has been in, so there is no history. So we're not asking them to search for it. We're telling them it's got history and telling them to look it up. The other thing we ask the technician to do is check for the maintenance schedules for these cars. Just clicking this button here will bring up TSBs, excuse me, recalls. There are no recalls on this car, and maintenance schedules. So if I wanted to see when cabin filters are due every 12 months, 10,000 miles, I can see it's going to pay 0.3 on that. I know how many miles the car has on it, so I know what to expect when I'm recommending services based on time and mileage. So those two things there are before the technician even gets started on the inspection process. When they're ready to inspect the car, click on the Inspect button. It opens it up in a nice clean format, works the technician through from the start of their process to the end. We have these as categories. Here's a miscellaneous category, underhood category, tires and brakes, and so on. Within each category, we have tasks. Tasks are questions that we're asking the technician to answer. We have different types of tasks. This is an open text, ready for the technician to type in there. If they're using a tablet, they've got voice-to-text capability. I've found that most techs prefer to type things out. Just a lot of noise in the background, and voice-to-text is sometimes kind of tricky. We want to know when the last oil change was done and where it was done, so they can type that in here. The next type of question we have is a green, yellow, red, or pass warning fail, or good, marginal, bad, however you want to call it. It's 3 positions. The third type of question is a yes, no. We only have 2 options, yes or no. I've chosen in my inspection to ask my technicians, are all the lights working? If they are, give me 1 check mark and move on. There's no reason for me to have a whole section on lighting telling me that every single bulb is good. If you want to, you can. Totally up to you, totally customizable. If the answer is no, it gives the technician a chance to go ahead and type in here. Third brake light is out. That's open text typing as well. On the green, yellow, red options, if we hit green, we're done, we move on. If we hit either yellow or red, we're asking the technician for 2 things. A finding, which is what did you see, what do you find wrong with it, and what do you want to do about it, is the recommendation. All too often a technician will tell you that the water pump is seeping but not tell you what to do about it, or they'll say replace the water pump but won't tell you why. Either one of those scenarios, your service advisor is making something up when they talk to the customer and doesn't have the full story. So it only takes seconds to get the full story. If the technician is set up in their settings to be allowed to, they can add findings in here. There'd be another line that says add findings and add recommendations, like this here, add new recommendation. That would allow them to add things to the inspection that will show up on inspections moving forward. If we don't check a line, we can skip over them real easy. We just don't check it. It doesn't print out saying did not check or not applicable. We've tried to keep the final print out nice and clean. We don't want to give the customer a bunch of info of stuff that we didn't check or that's not applicable to their car. We can also add units to each one of these. Did you test drive the car? Yes, I test drove it 3 miles. That explains why the extra miles are on the car when the customer comes to pick it up. It's because you were doing your job and out test driving it. We leave notes sections here for the technician to go in and openly type in notes, anything weird that they might find. Once they're done with a section, they simply click on another heading and they move into the next section. Here I've got my undercar. You can see some of my items here are mandatory. They've got little red check boxes on them or check marks to let the technicians know that they're mandatory. So they must be checked, otherwise they can't complete the inspection. If you're just starting out on the system, I highly recommend that you don't have any mandatory ones in there. If you do, it's confusing for the techs that are new to it and just causes issues. So again, findings are based on the task that you're asking them. Failed test strip, contaminated. My recommendation is to service the brake fluid. We try to use clear English in here and not dirty, gummed up, or bad. Make sure that the customer understands when you hand them this piece of paper what it's telling them. When I tell my customers that it is contaminated, they know that that fluid is no good. I don't put in here rec flush. I put in service brake fluid. I don't use shortened sentences. I don't say tranny for transmission. I try to get it all out in a nice presentable way to do it. In customizing this sheet, and you can do it any way you want. There's a lot of things in here that we've done to try and save the service advisor some time too. If you tell me that the belts are all cracked and torn and recommend replacing the belts, wouldn't it be nice if you told me that there were 3 belts? That right there can save the service advisor 15 minutes of stopping what they're doing, going looking under the hood, coming back to find out what parts they need to order. So spark plugs is an interesting one. We started checking spark plugs on cars that have, 30,000+ miles on them. We sold $35,000 worth of spark plugs last year as maintenance. That means they didn't come in with a check engine light. They didn't come in with a misfire, no toe ends. We did that as preventative maintenance, $35,000. Well worth your time on cars that have the mileage and are easy to get to pull a spark plug and look at it. As we go through here, you know that you can skip over items. So I've told my guys, if there's no leaks on the car, just leave these blank. I'm looking for speed. I want my guys to be able to rip through this faster than a piece of paper. In fact, I've got it set up so that steering, front, and rear suspension, if it's a low mileage car, you can give me 3 check marks here and just move on. Don't even go into the steering section. Or if the steering is a mess, you've got the whole section there that you could jump into. So hopefully you understand that by being able to skip over items, we can turn this into a multi-point inspection that can be very fast for the technician and get a lot of information back to the service advisor. When the technician is done with an inspection, they're going to hit Save and Complete down at the bottom, and the service advisor gets a pop-up on their screen like this showing that Keith has completed the multi-point inspection for the 2004 Escort. I also get pop-ups down here in the lower left. A lot of these are controlled by your browser. This allows me as a service advisor to jump in and view the recommendations and notes. I can see that this inspection that this is showing me is completed. It shows numbers 9 of 39 here and 9 of 39 up here. What that tells me is that 9 items were checked as being needed out of a 39-point inspection. Again, it's a multi-point inspection. We never know how many points it's going to be. If I click on this link, it opens up and shows me just the information that I need to know to move on and get this thing sold. As a service advisor, all I'm going to really look at real quick is I want to set priorities for these items. And we're going to say wipers are safety, power steering fluid is a maintenance item, battery failed load test is a safety, timing belt, we're going to monitor this. It says check with the customer. As we roll through here, I can see my tire pressures. I see who did the last oil change on it. It was due at 100,000. It's got 95, 96,000 miles on it. This is actually a pre-purchase inspection. I can also populate these prices. These are generic, general, throw them out there prices. If the technician has asked for extra time, it can show up here. I hit submit on this, and I have now assigned priorities to all of these items. And when I go in to print this up or text it to the customer, show you what happens here. These priority items come right up to the top. You've got your safety items, your maintenance items, and then 1 item to monitor in here. That's because I set the priorities. So the first thing I want to do as a service advisor is set those priorities to push them up at the top of that form. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to come over here and click this plus button to the left. This icon here tells me that I've got pictures. This inspection has 3 images attached to it that he took with an app on his cell phone or a tablet. I can see these pictures. I can make sure that these are what I want to send to the customer. There's a copy of the fluid tray. Here's a copy of the battery test. And here shows a broken wire at the defroster we're marking down for him too. If this is ready to go, I can go ahead and send this to the customer. If I need to make an adjustment on one of these photos, I can adjust that from here. I can go in and crop it. I can rotate it. I can put text on it. I can draw on it with lines. I've got the ability to make this a really nice presentation to the customer before I send it to them. Once I've got my photos in order, I've got my priorities set, I'm going to come in here, put in their cell phone number, and hit send. That has now been sent to the customer. It shows here that it went out at 8:20 this morning. The customer's looking at it on their cell phone. I'm going to jump into RO Writer, or I'm going to jump into RO Writer and start creating my estimates. I'm also going to grab the text from this inspection and open this up. I can copy and paste, go back into the vehicle notes on this car, paste those in there, and hit update. And now all of the inspection notes, the findings and the recommendations are in the vehicle notes for this car. So that's how easy it is that we move those back and forth. Paul and I are working on a button that will reach out and grab this for you, but for right now, it literally takes seconds to get that in there. I'm working up with the customer the pricing. After 5 minutes maybe, I call the customer. They've already had a chance to look at the inspection. They see the photographs. I can review the prices with them. And when they tell me what they want to buy, I can pop back in here and mark items as sold and hit submit. Now on the final inspection, by clicking off sold, I have now put the resolved in here. Let me blow this up a little bit for you. We've put the word resolved in. This helps out in a couple of things. When the customer comes to pick up their car and I have a final printout for them, they don't look at this and say, well, I thought I told you to put wipers and a battery in it and do this. The customer knows what they did. They also know what they didn't do or what they need to keep track of. Okay? So it's another way to let your customer know declined work. They'll go home with this piece of paper or open that text back up, and it'll show resolved or not resolved, and it's just another reminder to them of what they didn't get done. I'd like to show you how easy the getting the images in here. Here's the app. This is what the technician would see in the app. It's a very simple app for phones and tablets. They simply log in. Once they're logged in, they stay logged in, so they don't even have to go through that anymore. There's one option on here for add photo. We're going to be adding another option to add video, so that's on the way in. All you do is click on add photo. You select the inspection that you're going to be adding a photo to, and it opens up the camera. You take your picture. You can draw on it. You can put text on it. You can change the color. You can undo it. You can move it around. You can do anything you want with it. As soon as you hit upload, it becomes part of the inspection, is embedded in the PDF, and if you've got, if you're using our website deal, which is included in the price, all of those images also come up on your website. I'll show you here the website images on my website. I just give you one line of code, and all of the images from all of your inspections are dropped into your website, and you can see here it's all automated. They just show up. Google loves fresh content. Google loves images. All day long you're adding images and content to your website. It's going to help out with the SEO. I've just got a page here that calls service images, and that's what it does. A customer could type in their RO number and search for it. There's no information in here that is, that you wouldn't want to just put out there. There's nothing personal in there. There's no names or anything. So that's very simple. Let's see here. We've got the images. We've got the app. We've got the printing. You can edit the images. I think I'm going to open this up to questions right now.
Hey, okay. Scott, why don't you cancel the recording?
Okay.